Hey everybody, welcome to another session on that whiteboard guy. Today I thought I'll talk about different storage that you have available in AWS. There's block storage, file storage, and object storage. The idea is to make this very short videos where I'll be whiteboarding out the differences between those. I will be mentioning the use cases, some of the features, and some of the things that you'll need to know for your exams as well. So we'll talk about these various ways that we can go and set up all of these. And first, we will look at block storage and see how we can incorporate block storage within our environment. So I'm pulling up over here just a diagram where I've got EBS, Elastic Block Store. That is the service in AWS that you use block storage with. And we call these block store volumes. So what I've got is 3 availability zones in a VPC in a region somewhere. Subnet 1, 2, 3, and 3, and there are 5 EC2 instances in those various AZs availability zones. Also mentioned things like SSD drive, HDD drive, IOPS, input outputs per second, and the volume sizes that you have available with these various Elastic Block Store volumes. Right. So what I want to do is in availability zone subnet 1, I've got an EC2 instance. I want an additional drive for this EC2 instance, and the idea that we want with this is we want to have permanent storage. So we will go and say we want permanent storage. And again, we will then use and choose Elastic Block Store for that. If I want maybe a drive for a database, Elastic Block Store is typically what you will be looking at. If I need a lot of incremental reads and writes to that EC2 instance with the lowest latency, Elastic Block Store would be that specific use case. So let's go and we will then look at a specific volume. And let me draw out just the Elastic Block Store volume quickly. And I will go and maybe just look at doing it via this. So there's my Elastic Block Store. I will call this an EBS volume, and I will label it as such as well. Let me just drag that label up. And there it is. There's my Elastic Block Store volume. That volume, I will then go and connect up to an EC2 instance. I'll attach it. So you first create your volume, then you attach it to that EC2 instance. Now, when you attach a volume, after I've created it, it must be in the same availability zone as that EC2 instance. This is many times a trick question. Hey, I've got an EC2 instance in availability zone 1. I have Elastic Block Store in availability zone 2. What is the problem? Why can't I connect it? It must be in that same availability zone. So what I typically can't do is I can't have this effect where I have an Elastic Block Store over there, and I want to connect it up with this EC2 instance in availability zone 1. That is not possible at all. So I can't do that. So it must be in the same availability zone. So now I've got this Elastic Block Store, and I can do the same thing as well. I can take this EBS volume, and I can stand up another Elastic Block Store volume in availability zone 2. Once it's up, I can then go and connect that volume up to that EC2 instance in subnet 2 in availability zone 2 that I have. Now, what are the different types of Elastic Block Store volumes that we have? We've got SSD drives, and then we have HDD drives, solid state drives, and hard disk drives. Differences are typically where we'll be looking at different types. So we could be looking at GP2 and GP3, GP2, general purpose 2, and general purpose 3, those volumes. And then you also get IO1 and IO2 as well. So I'll go IO1. And you also get IO2 as well. This is the speed that I want. So if I want high input output per second, I will go with IO1 and IO2. If I want a general drive, I want speed as well, I could potentially get a cheaper way of going maybe with a GP3. GP3, GP2 price difference is negligible, so you don't have to worry about that. Then on my hard disk drives, I've got SD1s. So we've got SD1, and then we also have SC1. So those are the two, the cold drives, SC1, and then you've got the high throughput, which is your ST1. And those are the two that is available on your HDD drives. If we talk about IOPS per second, on my SSD drives, we could be looking at between 16,000 and 64,000 IOPS per second for those GP2, GP3s that we have. On my HDD drives, you're looking at a lot less. You're looking at between 250 to 500 input outputs per second for those HDD drives as well. So you don't really sitting with a lot of speed. As far as the different sizes are concerned, you are sitting between 16 TBs and 256 TBs. This is dependent on the block size. We're talking about block drives, EBS volumes, elastic block store volumes. That block size is important. I could be looking at a 4 kibis and up to 16 kibis. And those are the sizes that I have as far as my block size are concerned. And that could give me a range between 16 kilobytes and up to 256 kilobytes that we'll have with these as well. So block size does have an influence on your volume size, and those are quite important. Now, backups. What is backups? Within our AWS environment with Elastic Block Store, we call backups snapshots. So if I want a backup, I go and I create a snapshot of that volume. Snapshot, or let me just add in brackets, is my backups. Those backups is typically going towards EC2, right? So I will have an EC2 instance, and that EC2 instance is in the back where your drives are going. So there is my EC2 instance, not EC2, S3. And in S3 is where my typical data will go into as a snapshot, right? The snapshots are incremental. So when I go and I push a new set of data over into that S3 bucket, not EC2, what happens is that it goes and there is my first backup that goes in, and that is in. My next backup goes, and tomorrow I do some more additional writing. I save some more data. Incrementally, only the difference will now go, and that will be saved in there. And as you guess it, the next day, some more data, and some more data, and some more data until all of that is in, and my backups are whatever it is. So you have snapshots. Snapshots are backup in the back. It puts it into S3 for high availability, and you have your EBS volumes. Now in AZ2, on that second subnet that I've got, I could go and have another EBS volume, not that kind of EBS volume. I could have another EBS volume, right? And then I could go and say that EBS volume, there we go. I can also attach that to my EC2 instances as well. So I could now go and attach two. So I'll have, if this is a Windows EC2 instance, I could have a D drive and an E drive attached to that as well. So it's quite functional that you have all of this available for you. And then on subnet 3, I've got 1, 2, 3 EC2 instances that needs to connect up to the same volume. There is a way to do this. It is called multi-attach. So I could set up a multi-attach volume, and I'll just type that out over there. Multi-attach. This isn't that old. It was introduced not too long ago, probably about a year or so ago, where you have multi-attach drives as well. What happens with a multi-attach drive? Same principle still needs to exist. It must be in the same availability zone where I have this multi-attach EBS volume. And that multi-attach EBS volume, I can then go, well, not that one. I want to go and just copy that out. That multi-attach volume, I can now use and have all of these EC2 instances connect up to that one drive. So this is EBS in a nutshell, just to give you an introduction into it and how you will use it. Snapshots are on S3, not EC2 instances. You have to have your EBS volume, your Elastic Block Store volume, in the same availability zone as your EC2 instance. And if you maybe have in one availability zone multiple EC2 instances, you could go towards the multi-attach. Volume size is dependent on the block size, and it could be block size is between 4 kbs and 16 kbs, and that can give you volume size of between 16 TBs and 256 TBs. And you get two types of elastic block store: SSD drives, solid state drives, GP2, GP3s, IO1, IO2, HDD drive, SD1, SC1. Those are the ones. IOPS per second between 16,000 and 64,000 for your SSD drives, and for your HDD drives, 250 to 500. Hey, hope this was of some use to you. Next one that I want to cover is Elastic File System. So stay tuned for that. And then I will see you in the next one when we'll talk about file storage. Cheers, everybody.